Several suggestions are given here for reinforcement. For example, you could have a mystery word on the chalkboard every day, and the student that can figure out the mystery word would have a detective star pinned on their lapel. There are other suggestions here also. This book is called Super Seat Work Phonic Grab Bag, and it has 4 word wheels for sight families. For example, this is called Password Place, and behind the password place there is a word wheel. You could reproduce one of these for each of your students, and it will look like this when it's done. This is the owl family, and this says pow. And when they spin the wheel, it will say brow, how, and so forth. Altogether, there are 32 words on this word wheel. There is also Wordy-Gurdy, which has 21 words for sight families. And there is a television game called Name That Word, which has the word wheel on the back, as they all do, which contains another 32 words for sight families. And that brings us to test. Now be sure to include these sight families in your weekly phonics test. For example, you might say to your class, what good guy says P? What tough guy says G? What digraph says Ch? What vowel says I? And what sight family says ow as in now? And this will really bring the message home. There's nothing new to learn for all of the pre-primers. You are going to introduce words in 2 ways only. What's the clue and what's the family? Now, what does what's the clue mean? Does it mean that you point to the word and say, what's the clue? No, it means that you give an oral sentence that ends with the word, but you leave the word out. Then you say, what's the clue? How the wind does
blow.
What's the clue? B-l-o. Now, if you can't give a sentence that ends with the word, just simply tell them the word, follow that with the sentence, and then say, what's the clue? Now, what does what's the family mean? Does it mean that you point to the word and say, what's the family? No, it means that you tell them what letters to underline, then you say, what's the family, what's the word? For example, underline EW. What's the family?
Ooh.
What's the word?
Grew.
Now, the only time you will say, what's the family, is if it's a word that has a sight family that has already been introduced. This will give you an extended break from having to introduce new material all through the pre-primers. So it will give you time to sharpen your techniques. Meanwhile, your children will develop an immediate response with this constant application to words.
Now we are going to have a practice list for you teachers in the video audience to check your technique. Each teacher will introduce a word in turn while the other teachers respond as your class. If you wish to test your technique before the words are introduced on tape, stop the tape now. If you wish to listen to the tape first, then stop the tape and check your technique. If you have any difficulty introducing these words, you will be encouraged to know that there will be much more practice with word introduction as we go along, and it will get easier every time. We will now introduce the words.
A rabbit can hop and
Jump.
What's the clue?
J-a-m-p.
Very good. How much money do you
Have.
What's the clue?
Ha-a-v.
Learning to read is lots of
Fun.
What's the clue?
A-m.
Please come over.
Here.
What's the clue?
Ha-i-er.
Right. When I call you, now when you said this, see, really E says E, it reads ha-ear. When you say here.
Ha-i-er.
Exactly. When I call you, I want you to,
Come.
what's the clue?
Ka-m.
This word is in, as in please come in. What's the clue?
I-n.
Underline O-W, one line. What's the family?
Ow.
What's the word?
Now.
The teddy bear's name is?
Ted.
What's the clue?
T-e-d.
Good. The cat's name is?
Pep.
What's the clue?
P.
Please give the rattle to the,
Baby.
what's the clue?
B-A-B-E.
Right, the baby's name is,
Meg.
what's the clue?
M-E-G.
Very good. Now, word reinforcement. Because it's so very important to build on a solid foundation, several suggestions are given here to reinforce words. For example, one is word flashcards. During the pre-primers only, put all of the words that are introduced on word flashcards and review these cards each day before introducing the new words. This will take just a few minutes and it will give your students a flash recall of the high-frequency words. You will not need these cards after the pre-primers because by that time the reading vocabulary will increase and it will be very easy for the students to fit the words into a meaningful context based on the phonic clues. A good way to motivate the flashcard review is to use a puppet. There's a puppet game here called Gussie the Guesser, and it will encourage the children to look for phonic clues rather than guessing at words. Number 2 is supplementary readers. Take your students to the library after they complete each level and let them choose books of their own interest. For best results, the independent reading level should be one level below the instructional level. Word bingo is always very popular with all ages, even adults, believe it or not. There are other suggestions. This book is called Superstate Work Content Areas. And this book is especially good for ESL students because it covers all the words in the common content areas. For example, words for parts of the body, clothes, things in the home, things at school, animals, food, toys, occupations, tools, ways to travel, and special holiday bonuses. For example, there would be a picture of the house and it has all the words for the furniture. Now the pictures of the furniture are on the following page. The students would cut out these pictures and they would paste them into the house according to the phonic clues. It would look like this when it's completed. The pictures are all cut out. Now the student would take a picture and they would say, now bed. Which word must be bed? B-ath. It can't be that word. D. Now that's D. It's not B. B-ed. It's this one. And they would paste the picture right here. The next picture is couch. And they say, which word is couch? K, k, ouch. And it goes right here. Now, I'll just show you a few other examples in here. For example, there is words for animals, and they paste those into the merry-go-round. Then, these are jobs that people have, and they would paste those pictures under the correct word. This contains 50 What's the Clue puzzles. Now, all of these activities will keep your students creatively occupied until you complete all of the pre-primers. When you have completed all of the pre-primers, begin to introduce the consonant blends.